Hey everybody, this is John Bohlinger with Premier Guitar. We're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Today we're taking a tour of Third Power amps. They've recently relocated from Nashville, Tennessee to Minneapolis. Let's see what they are building. Okay everybody, now I'm with Dylana Scott. Dylana and I go way back, and I have seen you, gosh, I don't know, I mean like years back, like over a decade.
Oh goodness,
well over a decade. Yeah. And your new facility, wow.
Isn't this great?
Yeah, you were not messing around.
No, it's exciting. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
I think we met, I started the company in 2009.
Right.
And I think we met 2011 or 12, right around then.
Right. When I first met you, you were doing those triangular builds, which I remember seeing those at NAMM, and they sounded amazing.
They did.
And, and just the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the story of the triangle?
No.
I'll share it with you. Back in the 70s, I was born in the 60s, grew up in the 70s.
Me too.
And I remember somewhere in the mid 70s, and color television was out by then, okay, if we're going way back.
We're the same vintage.
Right, exactly. Okay, there's a TV commercial, and it's a tropical setting. And all you hear is tropical birds, and the sand, and the pleasant waves, and you see a Coke glass slide onto the table. We know the veluted, the shape.
Sure, the classic.
The classic Coke glass. And you hear, and the fizz, and you see the fluid fill the glass, but this time it's not the amber dark color of Coke, it's clear. And then you hear this Jamaican resonant rich voice say, 7-Up, the Uncola. And it was such a disruption. And that stuck with me. If I'm going to start an amp business, let's just disrupt the whole thing.
Wow.
Let's come out with a triangle and have everybody go, what the hell is that? I mean,
I love that. Yeah, that's great.
It has a principle in sound. Right? Studio control rooms, we want to eliminate parallel walls. And inside the triangle, I had a live-in dead end. I had absorption, I had bass traps in the corners. So sonically, it is a superior thing. In fact, the triangles, if we've got an empty cabinet, we'll look around.
So you're still utilizing that?
We're still putting triangle chambers in our rectangular enclosures.
Oh, great.
So that stuck with us, and that was the big disruption. Yeah. And I mean, the Who toured the world with triangles. Even Steve Miller Band.
Oh yeah.
Right? And he's got a pyramid rig. Most famously, in 2012, Lenny Kravitz did the Black and White America tour to support that record, and we built 2 full rigs, one for Europe and one for the U.S., and that was a lot of work. I designed the bass cabinets. Wow. And we even embedded 112 combo enclosures with mini triangles inside the stage plot. So yeah, that triangle was great, and it still lives on.
Yeah, that's great. And then since then, I ended up reviewing several of your amps, and every time, Dylana, no joke, every time I would get one of your amps and review it and live with it for a few days, everything, I'd go, God, this thing sounds great. And first one was, I think, was it the Wooly Coats or a kitchen sink? Yeah. And every time I thought, man, this is it. Just nailed it.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah. And I just saw you at NAMM, and you came out with this new line that just seems like you keep taking it up a notch.
Yes, yes. The product line definitely continues to evolve, but I want to describe it in a way that there's going to be people that watch this, that tune in, that haven't heard of Third Power or aren't sure what we do, why to pay attention to this video. Hopefully it'll be fun and you'll enjoy yourself. We want to certainly welcome everybody to seeing the new facility. But the whole product line and what you just said, let's tie it in like this. To understand what we're doing product-wise, let's actually step back and let's look at what other people do. Let's take a brand like Fender. Fender makes electric guitars and electric basses, other things, but let's focus on electric guitar since that's our world. Yeah. Fender offers a Telecaster and a Stratocaster, 2 bodies.
Yeah.
On the electric bass side, they offer a P bass, the precision bass, or jazz bass. And there's branches of follow-ons and things that you can upgrade it with, but that is the core. That is their core. So let's look at Gibson. Gibson has a core, but it's, there's Flying V's, Explorers, and this is and that's, and Les Pauls, and 335s, and many others.
Yeah.
Gibson's two things is hollow body and solid body.
Sure.
And so it's easy to digest what the heck they're doing, because a solid body is a V, is a Les Paul, though there's blending in there. But in a nutshell, if we hop outside of the industry, let's go to Steve Jobs comes back to Apple Take Two. What does he do? He defines it in a similar, I guess, 2x2 grid, consumer and professional, portable and desktop. So the product line really fits that. And so now to understand what we're doing, our grid starts with American and British.
Oh, right.
Right?
That is basically, those are the two defining voices.
That's right. That is,
amps,
that's the Big Bang.
Yeah, that
right?
is.
We go back to, guitar gets electrified. It's the fifth, earlier than that, but let's say it emerges. The Big Bang happens in the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah.
But it starts, and then we go American voice, and we go British voice. And one is supremely harmonically rich, and the other is this very inspiring clean sound. Though the Tweeds had plenty of harmonic richness, Fender kept going for clean headroom.
Right.
There was a story where the Beatles had an AC-30, and they had gobs of harmonically rich tone. And Vox tried to deliver them a clean headroom amp. In the next round, after their 59 ACs, they replaced those with what became the top boost. And why did top boost happen? Well, because the Beatles plugged in and went, where the heck is our tone?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so Vox went and added a cathode follower tone stack to get the gain stage back, because they had left the EF86 preamp tube. Right? And so that's a little gem of,
that's great. That's the behind the story.
That is, exactly. And so anyway, American and British.
Yeah.
And so if we look at the amp line that is the Dragon for us, that starts at a 67 plexi. The 1967 plexi is my favorite. It's the one where everything came together, and they only made that exact one for a handful of months.
Isn't that amazing? And that seems like the gold standard.
Yes.
And it's a total outlier.
That's right. And then you have the early 68, which is kind of like the 67. And then it moves into more JMP, the tone stack shifts, and then the 2203s, which has, but it all stems out of that British thing. So third power, our corner is American and British. And to unintentionally build the triangle is the kitchen sink,
right?
Which is the bridge to all of that.
Yeah.
So the kitchen sink bridges, and why would you make an amp that does British and American? Well, I might listen to Steely Dan one day and Van Halen one the next, and I might need to travel between those tones as a musician, and the kitchen sink is there as the bridge between those two worlds.
Yeah.
And we tree off from there. We make the Lyra, the Lyra, which we'll see it through the production line. It takes the #1 recorded amplifier of all time,
which is
Fender Deluxe.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yes. So the Lyra and the Fender Deluxe. Well, then we go into which one?
Yeah.
The 65. Are we talking the 62, where it was the tail end of Tweed with some refinement?
Right. It's a moving target.
It is.
Yeah.
So I solved that. I made the Lyra, and it's both the 62 and the 65 in one amp. And I sent...
Oh, that's great.
I
so you
sent,
get brown and black in one...
Yep, in one amp.
Yeah.
And we got rid of... all the fancy stuff is removed. I just put the new patented attenuator on there, the venue mode.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, you just plug in. It's those two amps at 20 watts, 12, or 5.
Okay, at some point I want to go a little bit further into that. Yeah.
Sure.
Because that's like your own proprietary...
Yeah, that's one of our patents. And then if we go again off of that American, we enter into a branch where we go a little bit hi-fi. And the hi-fi angle would be if you want that American sound, but you want to head Dumble inspired, you're a little bit Dumble curious, you want a little more headroom, a little more precision, a little more, I call it reference.
Yeah.
You want a little more reference sound, then that'll appear in our Aurora, but that still comes from the American tree. And I think the Dragon just sums up the British tree. It does it all. And then the kitchen is the bridge. Yeah.
All done right here.
Yes. So, yeah, it's kind of impromptu, but like a sport team, we all come together at events. Same thing at NAMM. We do this if a new product's coming out. We bless the product. If an artist has asked for something and we make it and we think it's beautiful and it will lift that artist, we come together and we either sign it for them or we just give it a peck. And,
I love that.
So we do that. And so this is an event. John, we go way back.
Oh, yeah, we're actually real friends.
Yeah. Exactly. We dream big and we find ways to get there. Yeah. And this is an evolution to that. Pam and I used to build amps in a garage in Nashville, and I made an amplifier for Jose Triani that as Third Power, we're on our way to hopefully becoming a household name, but at one time we were such a secret that Joe was looking for an amplifier, and he reached out to Ed's former guitar techs because he had something very specific in mind. And they both said, well, you need to call Dylana in Nashville. And that conversation made my phone ring. And I have another story at my bench that we'll talk about there. But I wanted to bring the team together here because without these guys, I'm back in a garage. Without Joe, I'm still in a garage. And I have this vision, and this vision is to make musical expression better for players. And players are people, and people have emotions. And our favorite artists somehow trigger our emotions, and we relate with them. And so all along, we've been making tools that are emotional translation, just part of that ecosystem. And I want the team together just for us to build on this moment. So thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you. There we go.
Beautiful. Right. The dream team.
All right. Ready, break.
Yay!
All
right. Okay, so a lot going on here. How do we want to start this thing?
Okay, so we build in a first in, first out kind of step. But what I want to do is I want to call the production manager over. He runs the floor. Let's have him over and take you guys through it. And I'll meet you downstream to show you some new tech.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, see ya. Okay, so now we're with Paul. So Paul, basically this is where we start going from here to a final amp, right?
Yeah, John, for sure. So we start off with the chassis. And we start making mechanical attachments. So, we start off with some tube sockets and grommets, putting ground tabs, things like that. Just, nuts and bolts kind of thing. And then we get into weaving in heaters, which is the kind of an art form, the mil spec kind of idea where everything is twisted up and looking nice. Get that going. And then the next thing to get attached is going to be, transformers, chokes, anything like that. So we start off with just kind of, nuts and bolts and screwdrivers and getting things put together. And Mike here is doing some of that.
Then Mike and another tech are doing that first step, which looks wildly complex.
Yeah, I mean, complicated some, maybe not too complicated in others. It just takes some practice. But once we get everything mechanically attached with the transformers, transformer wires going to some of the components in the sockets that they need to be, it gets the front and back faceplates put on and the pots and the speaker jacks and all that. When it gets to that point, then it's ready for a board to be woven in, and we can go check out a board being built.
Yeah, great, let's do it. Okay, so Paul, what's going on here?
Well, Jake is building some boards. He's got an old school, completely hand-wired one and one of the newer ones that we will probably talk about a little bit later, but he's just attaching the components that make the circuit work. resistors, capacitors, and whatnot, and attaching some leads on kind of the old hand-wired one there that will run out to, you know, pots or tube sockets or whatever. So yeah, here at the station, Jake is building boards for us, and he's also curating the playlist so that old guys like me can stay in tune with what's going on. Because you know, I'm a little out of touch, but Jake keeps us all informed on what's hot in the music scene, and he also works at the laser down at the end, which I'm sure we'll get to, and does some pickup winding for us. So he's a huge asset to us. He does a lot of different little things that each amp needs a lot of. So, and he puts a lot of love into it.
So what's on your desk right now? Looks like a Dragon.
Yeah, he's got a Dragon board there, and he's holding the Aurora 35 board right now.
Wow. Paul, so this is where you spend most of your time, is that right?
Yeah, it's where I spend most of my time. So, you know, after we get the mechanical attachments done and somebody like Jake gets a board built, now we have to weave it together. Okay. So, you know, we get the board in here, and then we just start making the connections to complete the circuit. So we got to get the pots connected to the circuit. We got to get the speaker jacks and all the tubes and everything just woven in together. And yeah, that's what goes on here.
Okay, so that's the Lyra inside. I haven't seen underneath the hood. God, it is so just clean. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's an amp I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of my
your jam, huh?
That's my jam.
Yeah.
You know, Dylana was talking about the whole British and American.
Right.
And that is so true. And I'm very loyal to the American thing, but I like having the British side.
Right. It's good to have both.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But I love that this gives you both Americans.
It does. It does. We're proud of it. Yeah, once we get it woven in and we're speeding up that process, then, you know, it just keeps moving on down the line.
Okay, so Paul took us through the earlier chassis stuff. Now this gets a lot more complex, and Dylana's back.
Yeah.
Dylana, what's going on here?
Okay, well, first I want to introduce Andrew. And Andrew has a unique history. He's a great player, great human being also. But Andrew, one of the things that really resonated when we first met was how you would attend the festivals. Yes. And the festivals are, I mean, shoes are optional. Yeah. And
you look like a festival guy.
Yes. But Andrew would show up and repair amps for free. If a band's about to play and their gear doesn't work, Andrew is literally elevating the community, making sure whatever gear they have is operational and that they could play the gig. Wow. And that struck me as someone that, you know, sometimes our back's against the wall and we got to get somebody on stage. And someone that can dig in and make that happen dynamically like that. I was like, I got to have this guy. And it turns out Andrew brings so many more skills and talents into this that Andrew started as an amp builder, and he's become my right-hand man at technology implementation. Things where I dream, right? I dream it into existence, and I have some technical skill to make it happen, but now I don't have to do it alone. And with Andrew, I can paint this blue sky, emotional, metaphysical existence of something. And Andrew will walk over to a whiteboard and draw it out, and I'll say, okay, well, try this, and da-da-da, and he'll look at it and go, well, that means we can do this, and so many things we cook up. And it's incredible as we take Third Power out of the garage into a facility and scale up to have someone like this. It's very meaningful, and I want to make sure the world knows that this is really great. And so we are going to look at some technical advancements.
Great. I can't wait.
So here we have a Dragon amplifier, and this is hand-wired point-to-point as I designed it and built it for Joe. And there's a lot of hours and labor here. Everything's done. Every little thing is all done deliberately that one time. Hey,
tell me a little bit. I don't want to throw it off at all, but tell me, with Joe, was he really specific about, I mean, how did that work out with you two? Did you have ideas? Did he kind of guide it? How did it all go?
That's a wonderful question. We're talking about Joe like everybody knows who it is. We're talking about Joe Satriani.
Yeah, and he's a big deal.
Yeah. So Joe had he had a project coming up, and the project was a big deal also.
Right.
The legendary, the king, Edward Van Halen, God rest his soul, Joe came together with Sammy and Michael Anthony, and they were preparing the tribute tour, the Best of All Worlds tour.
Right.
So Joe needed a very specific amplifier that was built to take Sammy and Michael back to the era that they wanted in particular to bring to the audience, and that was the Live Without a Net guitar sound, and that was that was the live, and they did the video from 1986.
Oh yeah.
That was Ed's last tour, according to Sammy, that featured the legendary Marshall.
Okay.
The Plexi.
Yeah.
And he had all the candy on there, but it was based on that. And so that's where we drove, and I knew what that sound had to start with, and it had to start with that particular late 67, early 68 Marshall Plexi. And so with that DNA in mind, the Dragon was born. And Joe needed a particular amount of saturation and lift, and yet he needed the articulation of the pick attack. And when he called, phone rings, I look at it, and the caller ID says Joe Satriani on it. And I'm thinking, no way, no way. I run out of the shop, which was in the garage in the Nashville place, and I run out of the shop and I sit down at my office, and it's on its third ring, and I pick it up, and I acted like hey Joe, how's it going? and he told me the story of Zeke and Tom, and he's like, I'm looking for something, and apparently I should have been talking to you. And one of the most magical parts of this is Joe was graceful in letting me drive. Eventually, Joe is the driver. He's the driver of the race car.
Yeah.
And we talked for a couple of minutes, and he was honest. He was a human. It was like Joe glasses off, right? Joe glasses on, that's rock star time.
Yeah.
No, he was Joe glasses off. We had a wonderful conversation. I gave him, I told him, yes, I can make this happen. Yeah. And I said, Joe, here's the relationship I would like. So I'm setting parameters to Joe, right? And he's like, I don't know if he's like, yeah, okay, she's telling me what to do. I said, here's how I want this relationship to work. You're the race car driver. You talk to me in terms of, I need the car to stick in turn 3. I need to accelerate into the straightaways. I want to win the race. I said, I'm a player too. I can decipher guitar, race car, driver language into creating the machine to have you win the race. He said, fine. And so we talked about what sound, and he had mentioned the Live Without a Net. And then I interjected my personal feelings. I said, Joe, here's what I want for you. And the phone got quiet. I'm thinking to myself, I better sound very intelligent now. I said, Joe, if I'm in the audience, I don't want to see Joe play a cover show. I want to see Joe pay tribute to my freaking hero.
Right.
And I said, this doesn't need to sound like Ed. This needs to sound like Joe paying tribute. And from there, we created the Dragon. But we didn't make it. It wasn't named the Dragon. I would design something, and then I would go run up into the studio. In fact, I have the studio. I brought it with us. It's upstairs. I'd run into the studio, and I would track an intro to a Van Halen song. And I'd send Joe the files. As I kept sending Joe the audio clips, 10 seconds of this, Unchained, Ain't Talking About Love. I just keep sending him. He started just firing off. He didn't say anything. If I did it right, it was the sound he wanted, fire emojis would just fill up my phone. And I was like, okay. And so now we're on a tight timeline. So there's no break. There's no long project. I've got to get Joe on the road in 4 weeks. And so I'm getting fire emojis, and now it's just the Dragon. Here's Dragon V2, here's Dragon V3, and we just do it. And so it naturally became the Dragon just by virtue of fire emojis. And when we got to the point when we were as close as we could get, I said, Joe, the only way I can get this any closer is if I have your guitar. with your guitar, I can do the final EQ. And so, may I grab one?
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah. You got to. Yeah, yeah.
Joe overnighted this to me. Again, we're on tight deadline. Joe overnighted me Chrome Boy. And every tweak I do to the Dragon as we take it through the evolution, I've got this guitar to make sure I'm nailing exactly what he needs. And one of the things that's been amazing, here, you hold the Chrome Boy. It's a thing.
Man. You know, when you got this, could you imagine your 20-year-old self thinking that was going to happen? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we have the surfing strap, the whole thing. It's like, oh my gosh, just amazing. I'll put this up.
So now you're plugging his guitar into what will be his amp.
That's right.
And tracking it.
So now there's no gap because I'm designing the speaker cabinet for this as well, and it's based on our quad-chambered 412. I wanted to give him any option he needed, from all speakers in unison to mixed tone, because his monitor in front of house guy mixes two certain mics on the bottom and two other type of mics on the top. And Joe's speaker choice was unique. He likes the G1275T, the Celestian, and that speaker, Joe gave me the reason he chose that. That speaker is rugged, lasts forever. He can't have a speaker cab go down on stage.
Sure.
And that speaker has delivered him the performance that he needs. It is mid-focused, which Joe's the singer of the show. Joe can't go with rip your head off tone because he's literally the vocalist. Mm-hmm. He's like 20-second, 30-second solos with, ungodly kicking butt guitar tone. That's great, but I sing all night.
Yeah.
And that really helped frame what we were doing. And Joe wanted the lead strings to be full of melody and thickness, and he wanted the low strings to be full of precision and focus. And that's like cutting the guitar in half. Yeah. How do you do that? And I came up with a way. And it's on the Dragon, and it's on, this is a Phantom Dragon. There's the 400 hertz boost switch, and it adds the right frequency bump to elevate the high strings into a thickness without extending into making the low strings too flubby. Huh. And it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes you just drop one sugar cube into you don't need two or three. Yeah. But sometimes you do want to drop a sugar cube in different places. And that's what I decided to do. There's some sugar cubes, and all the work isn't done in one spot. And it's an elegant solution that solved that. And having his guitar was key. Back to the speaker cabinet, we chose the Tone Speak, and it's the Manchester 1290s are on the bottom two, and we put on the top two his G1275Ts. So at closer to ear level, he has the familiar, and down for the microphones, the 1290 is, it has a great sensitivity like a Vintage 30 Celestian. That's a loud speaker. You just tickle it and it puts out sound. But the 1290 has a beautiful low-mid richness and a sweet top end, and blended. I was at first rehearsals in Florida. They were playing that night, and I was at rehearsals that day, and we were commissioning the rig, and I set it all up, and spent some time with the monitor guy, and we got it all dialed in. And Joe arrives. This is a great story. Joe and I hadn't met in person yet. And he walks in. It's time for sound check.
Was he looking very Joe?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Absolutely. We shook hands. We talked for a few minutes, and I'm confident. Yeah. Right? I don't shrink myself. It doesn't matter who.
You're very confident.
Yeah, and that's okay. Yeah. That's okay because I'm authentic and I care. Yeah. And so I met Joe and and I go, "You ready?" And Joe's like, "Ready for what?" He said that, ready for what? And I said, Joe, you're about to go on a magic carpet ride. And he laughed and said, we'll see.
Oh, that's great.
Right? And so I did put the pressure on, but you know what? I have been doing this for a long time. Yeah. I've been recording since 1982 as a guitar player. Yeah. So I'm ready for this moment.
Right.
And so we get on stage and I asked Joe, I go, indulge me? And he goes, how so? What I loved is he was being dry.
Yeah.
And like going, okay.
Yeah.
Right? I'm his race car designer. I need to be able to talk to him about the fit of the seat and the seat belt and all of that. How's this feel? So I said, I have this set up how I think you need this to be. Well, how can I be that confident? Well, I had his guitar. Yeah. He gave me the confidence.
Well, and Dylana, you have great ears.
Thank you.
You really do. I again, in dealings in the past, this has really kind of amazed me how you hear stuff.
It's well, and I'll accept that. And for me, it is somewhat metaphysical, and that is, I think I can smell sound. This is a refined experience, and it happens in here, and I know it's nuts. But I watched the Neural DSP guy do a factory tour not too long ago, and he said something that resonated with me, and I hope to meet him someday. But he said, the imprint of what the sound should be is here for him. So his job is to create the playback device, the neural system, to create the playback device, and when it lines up and he thinks he's got it right, then it becomes a product. That I share that with him. Yeah. When an amp is right, I know. And that knowing is a thing where we're close, and then gravity or magnetism locks it in. And for me, it's experienced here, and then the emotion happens. Yeah. And so the ear is a part of it, but the heart and the perception and all of that ties in. So I am designing from that space. And back to Joe, we put the guitar on Joe, and he's fine, and I walk him up, and here's what we got, and here's where I have the knobs. And he hits a couple of chords, walks up to the front of the stage. Now, I'm now a bystander as he goes through his routine. He's up at his pedal board, da-da-da, hits a couple of things, hits a note. Joe's not looking at me anymore. Joe's looking at Kenny Aronoff on drums, Brian Beller on bass, and he's looking at those guys, and they click off a song. And they play for a few seconds, and then Joe stops. And he's not acknowledging me at all, and he walks across stage. And he meets the monitor guy. And they're on stage over in front of Brian's rig, and they start to talk, and I can't quite hear. But I can make out something along to the effect of, how's this sound to you? Joe asks his monitor guy. And I'm able to read lips as the monitor guy says, Joe, I've got you flat. And Joe literally takes a step back and puts his weight on the, like, this is flat? This is my bed track? Joe finally looks at me and gives me the nod.
Oh, that's great.
And then they start up and play a song, and you can feel the energy in the room lifting. And we're at the House of Blues, Orlando, Florida. It's a huge place. Yeah. And the energy is lifting, and Joe takes the first solo and then heads back into the motif, and then they go into what would be the verse section. And all of a sudden, Brian Beller stops playing. There's no bass player. And then Kenny Aronoff stops playing. And Joe spins around with the look on his face to the effect of, what the hell are you guys doing? Yeah. What happened? What's wrong? And Brian doesn't look at Joe. Brian looks over at me and says, Dylana, because it's far away, it's a big stage. Yeah. Dylana, thank you. Kenny Aronoff stands off the drums and is leaning on his cymbals. And he starts shaking his head. Brian goes, you've made me a better bass player. And I'm blown away, right? I'm melting. I'm melting with the energy because it was authentic, it was instant. And what Brian articulated was, he could hear Joe in a detail, even in in-ears that he'd never heard Joe. And Joe's had great amps always. His tone is in his fingers. This is a guy that's played with him for 10 years plus. And he says, I can hear everywhere Joe's going before Joe gets there. I don't know how you did it, but you've made me a better bass player. And Kenny's shaking his head, yes. And at that point, Joe starts beaming. I'm giving a lot of detail because as a designer, it is the pinnacle of affirmation of your creation and the choices you've made and the trust that I've put into this way that I perceive sound. And Joe finally looks at me and he's smiling because his peers, his band members who have heard it all, they've heard Joe on his best nights and they've heard Joe when he has to fight the bull, right? And so to get that feedback from his band, the acceptance, I mean, Joe had the balls to change his rig with no notice. And
it was very surprising. I mean, like because he was so, he'd stuck where he'd been for such a long time.
That's right.
People are loyal to that.
Absolutely. And the fact that where Joe is in his career, he could have it all and people will gladly give it to him. Joe paid for everything. And when Joe and I talked about what we were going to do with this wasn't going to be a signature, so his name's not on there. We wanted to make this a collaboration, but the sounds, the capability of this instrument, this is an instrument that will go where John wants it. This will go where Joe wants it. This will go, anyone that plays on the Dragon platform can take this into where they need to take it. It's a tool with that much range. And it was exciting to have him say, yeah, let's do that. You can put my picture on the website or on the, on the Instagram. In fact, what do you think of this quote? And he sent me just a lovely quote. And it's just been amazing. We have some technical advancements that have happened based on Joe's usage.
So you've been tweaking it.
We have tweaked.
Now that he's had
Absolutely.
it in battle.
That's right. And we have decided not to embargo those tweaks to only be his and his alone. We've decided that as this became an expanded platform, we're going to go ahead and we put that tech in. One is the venue attenuator.
Okay, that's some of your proprietary.
That is, yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
So the attenuator, instead of it being an outboard device, we do it inside the amplifier. And there's so many systems inside of an amp. Think of it like this. If we're on a skyscraper and we have to wash the windows, well, it's fine if we're down on the floor. But if we've gone way up, we're on a platform with pulleys on all the corners. You can't lower one corner without lowering all corners. Everything has to be taken into account or the system tilts.
Sure.
Now, if we're on that platform and it tilts, we're at risk, right? So, but for a player, if the system tilts, a player at Joe's level, if it tilts, he's out of comfort. And this has to translate his energy. So we have to make sure if we're going to turn it down, how are we going to turn it down? How are we going to address these systems in play? Well, there's a preamp that doesn't know it's being turned down. There's an effects loop and a mastering module in my amps, and they're a part of this whole thing that's happening in the venue circuit. And then there's the output stage. And output stages aren't just uncontrolled fire hoses. There's checks and balances there. There's bias that controls the tubes. There's a negative feedback circuit that, let's just say that it adjusts the spring tension. And if you're going to turn an amp down, but you're not going to retension the spring, then you've got nothing. And we took all of that into account, and that's what's happening in our venue, is we're handling it all. And this happened because Joe wants the amp to run at 120 dB.
Yeah.
He wants that kind of decibels because the notes last forever.
Sure.
And when they last forever, and Joe plays, he's the singer for 2 hours. I've stood this close to Joe. And this is a pretty amazing moment to have been able to share, but Joe and I have passed the guitar back and forth and showed each other how we play Van Halen Ain't Talking About Love right before the tour. And what I noticed is Joe is literally, every sound he conjures is in his fingers. There's no freebie that the gear is giving him. He chooses every pick position. When he moves, it's for a deliberate outcome and intentional. Joe changes the angle of pick based on the transient response that he wants to fire at that moment. Joe triggers harmonic fullness. Joe triggers tender. Joe can whisper and light a bonfire that was already pre-gasolined. And it's awe-inspiring to stand this close and witness it, where we've got the amp quiet and I can hear him acoustically.
Yeah.
And through the amp. And I forgot how to play guitar in that moment.
God, yeah,
he hands it to me
absolutely.
and I'm like, well, this is kind of Ain't Talking About Love.
Yeah.
But it was amazing to have that moment, build that trust. And for Joe and I think Joe appreciates that I haven't gone out of my way to try to buff him up and be friends. We have a professional, mutual respect relationship that has become friendly because we left the boundaries in place, that we have a professional relationship, and because of that, it's become friendly. And I love that, and if Joe ever watches this, thank you. This has changed my life. I appreciate you, and your whole band, everybody in your organization is amazing. Back to Orlando, Florida. I went out to front of house. Now, we have this big episode on stage. Oh my gosh, it's electrifying and very affirming. And I want to go see, this is great. I know how Brian is being affected. I know Kenny and what it's doing to him. He's hitting even harder now. And Joe's now, he's, head back playing, and it's goosebumps. It's spine tingling. Joe's wife, who's heard it all, is literally dancing in and out of aisles. And she's looking at me and so energetically thumbs upping me, and she's feeling it. And she's heard him play almost, their entire life together. And so I get over to front of house and I ask him, how's this occurring out here? And in particular, I wanted to see on the digital console, what are you doing? And he calls up Joe's channel strip. And he shows me filter off, filter off, filter off. He points over to his processors. They had a rack of processing, and he shows me processor off, bypass, bypass. I left this one on because Joe paid too much money for it. And so there's one processor on, everything on bypass, and everything on the console literally wide open. And I've always, my ethos was to design amps that inspired, but they were fader up. If you can get it right, you should be able to push the fader up. There it is. That's the end of story. And that spirit drove me to start. And 18 years later, I got to watch Joe play on stage and have his sound man show me that spirit has literally come home, and here it is. And so with that, I have some exciting technology to share, and that's going to be here. Should we talk about that?
Oh, yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
If we look at something built this way, up until this past September, everything Third Power made for our 18 years was fully point-to-point, hand-wired turret board construction. And let's grab a turret board. Will you hand that, the one right in front of you? Yes, there you go. Well, listen, we're going to bring this into the camera view here. This leverages one thing. What it leverages is my intention. And for this to actually be manifested and put into service, every single thing has to happen every time we make one. We take a blank board, we drill all the holes. We put all the turrets in. We swage the turrets. On the bottom, all the traces are hand-wired with intention. This does nothing until everything is done so that it can live up to what I intended. That's a lot of work. That doesn't scale. It may be scaled in 1965, 6, and 7, like Marshall and,
Sure.
and so on. But, you know, Marshall, by the time 74 hit, they had to go PCB. And
Really, was that early, huh?
yeah, Marshall
Wow.
Marshall shifted to PCB in 74. 73 is the last year. And I have been, on a personal level, thought, nope, no PCB. This is what I intend. This is what you're going to get. And what I've learned in the process of trying to scale up and trying to inspire more players was that you're going to have to think of this differently. Like I thought about the sound being fader up, and I stuck with that, and I've landed. There's a spirit here, and the spirit is it'll last forever. And how do we describe that? It's a hand-wired turret board. Us guitar players know it's serviceable. It's built with intention. It'll last forever. And there's comfort that comes with that. There's, you know, you get a tattoo, the needle hurts, the ink goes in. This is an example of real tube amps getting real ink applied, and it hurts, and it's lots of labor. And as you scale, you've got to find ways to shave the labor. Andrew and I and the team spent 6 months building these amps. We thought we could do it this way and get it fast. Not with the design sophistication that we do.
Yeah.
And so a Dragon is about a 28-hour build. 28 hours is a boutique, made in Nashville garage type of company. We're trying to elevate. After 18 years, it's time for us to elevate. And it's not an elevation of vanity, it's the natural progression.
Sure.
And in looking at that natural progression, I had to explore, what is PCB? How can it be harnessed? What can it really solve? And what I've discovered was a PCB can take my work of intention, which this does, turret board, it's intended in these circuits, but it can relieve the process of putting all those traces on. So we can lock intention, and it no longer needs to be drilled. It no longer needs to have these traces put on. And we wanted it to remain serviceable. And in sitting down with Andrew, I gave Andrew a parameter. It's the best word I could think of. I mean, we could chat GPT a better word, but something that we want to last forever. If it's going to last forever, what service is it going to be providing? Let's look at a vintage guitar. We don't use the guitar and throw them out. We maybe sell and move it on to someone that else will get inspired by it. Or if it's that special piece, we keep it forever and we hand it to our loved ones. And now we're talking, that to me, that exchange of handing it forward to a loved one, that's an heirloom. That's something that's meant to last forever and be cherished. And I've been making amps for 18 years that are heirlooms and that should be cherished and should hand on. And so I gave Andrew that ethos. Let's take what I've created and let's get it to PCB in an heirloom fashion. Well, I introduced everybody to Andrew. Andrew knows what it's like to stand in the mud and fix something. Andrew knows what's going to break, when it's going to break, what the duty cycle is. We could point at a cap on here, and Andrew already knows in his head if that's a 20,000 hour cap or if it's only a 1,000 hour cap. We choose caps that will last.
Wow.
We choose caps that will contribute the sound that we want. And so Andrew and I came together and we produced this. This is the Lyra, and this is an amplifier that embeds this spirit. And here it is, it looks like a PCB, but when you look closer, if you look in the light, can you see how vascular the traces are?
Yes.
It's really great. But if you notice these gigantic pads,
Yeah.
what are we doing with those? Everything that will need service over now, 10 years, 50 years, whenever, we've put on a turret. So the spirit of heirloom here is still intact. These caps may need to be changed in 10 years, 20 years. This isn't something that looks pretty, and despite the great Tolex job of the cabinet, you can't think of putting in use for beyond 5 years. This is something that is an heirloom. This will last forever. Should it ever need to be repaired, you can see it's labeled.
Yeah.
Whether we service it or whether another tech services it, he knows what goes where, and it's just heat it up, pull it out, repair it. There's no intense deciphering. Like this, we made a PCB format, but an heirloom. And then we made one. And it was the Lyra. And we made the first one, and I made a hand-wired equivalent. I thought for sure.
You hear a difference?
I thought I would like my hand-wired one better.
Sure.
What I found was I liked this one better, and it was a shock to my system.
Wow.
And I can tell you the reason that Andrew and I think is, one, we build, if we look at this amp, we see a span of shielded wire here. And this basically has an encasement that protects the signal flow within the wire, and then it has a drain that goes to ground, so any interfering signal is captured and diffused to ground. That makes things quieter. So we deploy shielded wire where it's needed. Using that same ethos, Andrew built shielded wire in the PCB.
Oh.
Yes.
Into it. Wow.
So if there's, and I always describe to Andrew, again, this is that metaphysics brain. I don't have a physics background. I've got a high school education. I have try it and figure it out as my professor.
Sure.
And so I told Andrew, I think of electrons as excited little children at the water slide park. If you send them all up the ladder, they want to get on the slide, right? That's the funnest part.
Sure.
Sure enough, one kid halfway up has to go pee. And he wants to get down. So we can't have all of these kids get off so he can go pee. We have to find ways to create diversions for the one electron that's got to get off the ladder. And so I describe how I'm thinking of this. This is a water slide. Electrons, I'll look at it like this. The happiest dog at the park is the one that's run around for 2 hours and its tongue's hanging out.
Sure.
And so I try to keep electrons entertained. There's no boredom. They don't sit in a reservoir waiting to go have fun. I wear those darn things out. I use them, let's go. And when we really need to have a surge of electrons, I build the spring mechanism in the circuitry to make that happen. And I describe how that's proprietary stuff, so I'll describe it like at the water park.
Sure.
But part of that is if you look in here, you'll see loops of wire. I am making it like a water slide. And Andrew stuck to that ethos. And there is loops of wires. There's no hard angles. There's no hard T. Everything merges. It would be, it's like a roadway system if they were designed how the architect really wanted it. This is beautiful, and Andrew has these shielded wire guides that flow with the audio signal, and darn it, we made these things several dB quieter. And when you lower the noise,
wow,
what do you get? Well, more headroom, right?
Sure.
You and I are old enough to back when we had a Sony Discman
absolutely.
Or a Walkman.
Sure.
My favorite songs for my favorite guitar players, their best riff was when? At the freaking fade out of the record.
Oh, right.
How many times did you, I did this with Randy Rhoads.
Yeah.
Songs like SATO, his riffs at the very end,
yeah.
where he's improvising now.
Right.
He's already just torched the place with an amazing solo, and at the ride out, if you don't turn it up, you're not going to hear the riff.
I totally remember that now, the frustration of not being able to hear the best part.
That's right.
Yes.
And so my job is to make these amps as quiet as possible. So any flick of the pick, any harmonic, any moment that you do something, that moment of transient response. Sometimes you hold, how many guys do you see hit a chord? It's the Nashville thing, and they shake their neck to get some. How many times do you see the neck shaking and you don't hear a damn thing?
Yeah, sure.
It's not because they're not pushing hard enough. Well,
Yeah.
it could be that, but it's because we don't have the dynamic range where the darn rig, the whole system isn't tracking at that level of detail. And you wiggle the neck, you tilt the guitar like this, you're going to hear. Brian Beller called it out. He could hear where Joe's going before Joe goes there, because the dynamic range and that intention is revealed.
Right, without
And-
that noise
Yes.
floor. Yeah, that's
And
okay.
this took us even further. And if you notice, there's no copper here. You see this 8-inch wire run? These, I mean, there's 7, 8, 9, 10-inch wire runs everywhere. This, everything is 2.5 inches or less.
Yeah.
We have cut our copper usage by 45%. Andrew thinks even more. I'm conservatively rating
Wow.
how much copper we've pulled out. That's not about savings, whatever. We've pulled some copper out, great. But what we did was make the amps better. So we take my intention, we lock it in. I design it once, it's baked into this. We put the turrets in, we populate it with intention, and then it goes in with a beautiful boom. You can see there's nothing going. All we have is front panel to tube socket running the span.
Yeah.
And we have found that we have brought the intention of heirloom, the heirloom aspect of Handwired, into PCB. And we took it a step further. And what we noticed was the front panels. I do amps that have a lot of features. They're meaningful and they have a very particular outcome desired. But when you take, for example, a pot, well, you've got to unscrew the nut, pull the washer, push it through, put it all back together, and then you have to connect it. And so each pot it feels like 10 minutes of work. Can you rush through it? Sure, you can rush through it. But if we figure 10 minutes per pot, we're looking at an hour and 20, and the intention of where this goes, well, you don't memorize that. You've got to interface with a document.
Sure.
Cut your wire, look at your document again, make your connection. Most of the time you look at the document one more time, it goes to that turret, not this one. So you have to make very intentional moves. This front panel can take 2+ hours to build.
Oh, yeah.
What we've decided to do, and it came to me while I walked the floor one day, was let's take a real amp pot. Let's find a way to harness it. Let's capture it in a physical sense. And the concept was, let's create a jig that can hold the pot. And the pot will snap in, like I just did there. And now the pot is captured and it can be soldered in, but it is a real tube amp pot. This isn't a PC pin, 20-cent pot. It's a real alpha pot. It's what most of the amp industry is on an alpha. We've used other higher end, the sealed pots. Those get quite expensive. But this is a industry standard, excellent pot. And what we can do is, we don't have to spend 2 hours assembling it in place. You saw how quick this snaps in. I don't have to look at a document to know where I need to solder. I solder.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't look at the computer. I drop my pots in, it tells us what value we install, so we put the right pot in. We solder. Well, guess what? You see all these wires here? They're already embedded into the board.
Wow, that
So
cleans it up.
The design intention, look at all the wire that's gone. That is 2.5 feet of wire
Wow.
gone. So my design intention is baked in. It doesn't have to be interpreted and re-executed. Here's where we're getting that scale up lift.
Wow. You know, Dylana, that's really interesting because all guitar players prefer the sound of a shorter cable
Yes.
to a long cable. You never really
got it.
think about it
Yep.
in as far as your amp.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
Absolutely. It's allowed me to design. I'm doing my best design work now than ever. And I've done some award-winning work.
Yeah.
and made a lot of people happy, and we're actually doing our best work now because of how Andrew helps me interpret this. And he's great because I can speak with Andrew in this metaphysic way, and he knows what we need to do engineering-wise.
Well, back in the day,
Yeah.
I mean, it really was just all you. I mean, you were, every idea you had to solve yourself.
That's right. That's right.
You know, which you did, but wow.
And what's beautiful of that is it was, first of all, I was tireless.
Yeah.
And I knew here's what I knew. If I could, I could go into the studio, sure. But let's take the top studio guys, from players to engineers and producers. If they can go into the studio and electronically produce a masterpiece that moves me emotionally, when I hear it, that means it can be done.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it took all of their massive amounts of talent to, at the time, I'm holding a CD. I'm not holding an MP3. I'm holding a piece of output of creative art, and I can bring it in and listen and be inspired. And because that can be created, I knew that what it was I was trying to do could be done. And so I put studio processing circuits into the amp. When I design, I do believe I can become a little neutron that can go inside of a tube and design how I want to attach to that moment, to understand what the tube is doing. And my way to get inside the glass is through the anode and cathode. And so I have these attachment points that I can manipulate externally electronically. And Andrew and I freak out about anode cathode and how we could really do this, and we can make the tube do that. And if we set up this condition, it means when I play, it'll do this. And so I'm doing my best work. And now, thankfully, I'm not doing it alone. And so back to this, I'm holding a thing because I'm super excited about it. So the pots slide in. There's no wire, as you said. We've gotten rid of copper, which opens up the sound, the dynamic range, the tactile response. But here's a finished one for the Lyra, and it's all of the pots, all of the voicing. We have voicing on here, so there's no wire to any of this. It's all there. And this snaps in, and when I describe, this is theoretically an hour and a half's worth of work because it's 6 pots plus all the wiring. This snaps in about 2 minutes.
Wow.
It's in the amp fully assembled with all of my intention.
And sounds cleaner.
And it sounds cleaner.
Gosh,
so
isn't that amazing?
We've pulled hours off of assembly, but kept the intention and the ethos and this is an amp pot.
Yeah.
If in 10 years this pot needs to be replaced, desolder it and put in the alpha replacement.
You know, it's amazing that builders have not been doing this earlier. And in fact, after they watch this video, they will.
Yeah, and you know what? If it elevates the craft, that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
And if their decisions don't include this, that's okay also. Yeah. We've decided this is how we're to do it. This hole is for the input jack.
Oh.
Why didn't I put a PC input jack on here? Because I think the Neutrik jacks from Germany sound amazing.
Really? So
yes. So we created the cutaway so that we can snap in. The jack, I think, sounds better than any other jack. I use Neutrik jacks. I use Neutrik plugs. They are the best. Anything else for me is a compromise.
You are leaving nothing to chance.
We're not. And if you see, there is the jack slipped through here. It is a direct connection. If you were to break the jack, you don't break my board.
Yeah.
We replaced the jack. It's independent. Heirloom. This was our philosophy. This was the ethos. And Andrew helped me bring it into today. And so we're seeing the components that make up a Lyra, but every single third power amplifier is moving this direction. And what do we have now? What's the amps we have converted over?
We've got the Lyra, the Aurora 35, the Aurora 45, the Phantom 45. We're working on the 100, the Custom Shop, and a couple other treats that are coming down the line.
Okay, all right.
That was very specific.
Yes, yes. So we've repositioned ourselves here because Andrew has some things that he and I talked about what we want to share without giving away the secret sauce, but it is inspiring. So if people that are in the craft get inspired and wanted to elevate their designs, we're totally cool with that. But Andrew, one of the things that I mentioned to the guys when we were offline was how we've done some calculation and some temperature analysis and stuff like that. But so let's share that.
Effectively, all of the traces are sized such that no matter what happens in this circuit with the voltage and current that they are going to be presented with, if there's a dead short, if a wire's too long, if something gets in there, if we have a situation where there's a worst case scenario and a component burns out, that trace is not going to increase by a singular degree before that fuse blows. This thing is designed to take a kick and keep on kicking.
So it's not going to get hotter? It's not going to like... Wow.
Yeah.
It's just designed to be stable, built like a tank.
And so how do we do, let's like help that land. I get what we did, but we have copper traces.
Yes.
And we've gone with the amount of width
Yes.
and thickness.
Yes.
And what did we do on the surface of the board? So in the case where, well, it's not even going to become 1 degree hotter.
Yes.
Because of the decisions we've made. So you're saying pads won't curl up.
Pads will not curl up. We've taken and sort of inverted the standard way of placing solder mask as well. Now, essentially, the solder mask is that green colorant, or blue in this case, that everyone's familiar with when they look at a PCB. What we have done is taken and instead of having what is called a solder mask gap around the outside to allow full spread and a proper fillet of our solder joint, instead, we have taken it and closed that around the edge a little bit to just provide that last little bit of holding pressure down on the copper, so that no matter what's going on here, if we need to have it reworked once or twice by somebody along in the future, this is going to be there. We're not going to have the mid-1990s Fender problems where, you know, a trace is peeled off or scratched off or it just decided to let go one day. That's not in the design. We are not allowing that to happen.
And we're not throwing anybody under the bus, but Andrew's fixed so many amps that he's seen that things that have occurred, we've learned from them. Let me unpack something you said. Sure. Because we have a solder pad diameter, which means that we have this place that heat gets applied, solder flows, creates the fillet that you've talked about.
Correct.
And what we've done is we've given ourselves a pad large enough so that we can then solder mask onto to grab the edge of the pad, and yet it's still large enough to apply heat and do everything. So we didn't mess that up.
No,
it is a beautiful detail that we hadn't seen anybody else do that, have we?
Not really, no. This is a format that is utilized in surface mount. There's a process called SMT, or surface mount technology, that utilizes another sub-process called SMD, or surface mask defined, or solder mask defined. And what we've done is applied solder mask definition to through-hole components, which is, I will admit, a little pedantic to get into, but when we're trying to make these something that we can pass along and make sure that it can be depended on, I'm not going to leave any stone unturned. I'm not going to leave any possible process that improves it out.
Yeah, yeah. I could imagine an amp that goes, well, here in Minnesota, this has been my first 1 year, and I did experience a winter here, and it does get cold. But if you have gear that is going to go through temperature cycles and whatnot, these steps that we're implementing, thanks to your experience, allows us to really make, again, back to that spirit of heirloom and make that intact. And that's what it's all about, something that inspires you and takes your music to the next level. And should it move downstream, it'll take that person to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is a perspective that I've heard described in
the restoration of paintings that effectively, when you have something that is present that was not placed there by the artist, that you are losing the intention and the ability to experience that intention.
Wow.
And so in preventing things like this from happening, we can allow that exact thing to happen. We can allow somebody to plug in, play, and feel exactly what you have put into the circuit. And
Yeah.
at this station,
Yeah.
that is my job,
Yeah.
to translate you into these and into that future.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can I have a hug?
Oh, no problem.
So an amp gets done now. Andrew helps me create all of this. This fine team does all of the assembly. And when it's all done, it moves back to Andrew and I, and Paul is also a part of the next step. Andrew takes the amp, he knows what it's supposed to be, and Andrew's got some meters and this and that, and then what we call animate. It's like the old Frankenstein movie.
Oh, yeah.
You pull the lever, you hit it with voltage. Yes. So
lights shine.
we animate the amplifier. We start to apply voltage. We form the capacitors, and that concept is if you drop a capacitor into 120 volts immediately, then you shock it into that position. If you warm it up, 5 volts, 10 volts, 15, 20, and you have it on a dial and you bring it up slowly, if there's an issue, you can capture it and contain it and resolve it before the amp's all the way woken up. There's no damage. But when you finally bring it up, we feel it also makes the amplifier sound better when it's been formed into position versus flip a switch and cross your fingers and pray. So Andrew does that step. That used to, again, be something that only I did. And what we found is that created quite the logjam, because there was a time when there was 15 or 20 amps over there
Easily.
waiting for me to get to, and everything was, I became the logjam. And so we're creating a system where Andrew does the pre-burn-ins. Andrew confirms that the amp is performing. And the next thing is we're trying to remove me from being the logjam. As you know, Paul's owned a recording studio. He built his own studio. He had a studio business. Was it what, Austin, Texas? Yeah. So Paul lives in that world. He's got golden ears. And I'm doing my best to teach Paul to hear like me in that sense, where I know Dylana's intention. I have a design example that Dylana is cool with. And so he'll set the knobs and boom, this, play. Then we have this comparison box that Andrew made, and it will park one amp and play the next one, and it's effortless. And we'll see that in action over here. And Paul can take the amp that's ready, that we're auditioning, and compare it, and spin knobs, make them the same, and compare. And once it moves through Paul's gate, he'll slide it through to me. I'll visually inspect every amp, and then I will play every amp, and then I'll hammer on every amp to just make sure there's no cold solder joints. And from there, I will do the securing, the gluing components, the final, and then I'll sign off on it. And then Gabriel, who we'll talk to later, will do final assembly. Paul will play it one more time, and out the door it goes. So it's being lovingly moved through the whole process with great care, great attention to detail. I'm touching every single one, and the amps we're shipping are fantastic. They are instruments. It's not just a piece of electronic gear. They're creative instruments. Okay, this is the stage where Paul will plug into the amps, and these are design masters. So all of these are exactly how we want the amp to sound and feel. So it's locked down. This isn't available for sale. This is here, and maybe in a year, if we want, we can recycle it out. But this is our library. This is...
And these are like the gold standard examples
Yes.
of each one. Okay.
Yes.
So this is what they have to...
Yep.
Everything coming down the pike has to sound like this.
Sound and feel like this, or it can't leave. Yes. And one of the ways to facilitate comparing everything is this box here. And you'll notice,
George comparison.
yeah, so this is a fun one. We called this George, and we use the Beatles font. It's the George comparison. And Andrew designed this to receive the guitar signal, and it will distribute it to one of any 4 amps lined up. So we have 2 of these to cover every instrument that's here. So these 4 covered here, and anything that would reside down here will be in the second one. And we plug in, and this will go to the front end of those amplifiers, and this picks which amplifier we're monitoring, and this picks which cab we're distributing that amplified signal to. So there's no fumbling. It's very fast, very efficient.
Yeah.
And from there, basically an amp would show up like this on a cradle. We'd sit it there, and we would just run through and adjust the knobs and compare, hence George comparison.
Yeah.
If it meets spec, then Paul slides it right through. And I'll acquire that chassis, put it on my bench, and then I'll visually inspect it, as I mentioned before, and I'll hammer test it for cold solder joints. I'll play on it, and if it passes, then it's assembled and it's played one more time, even after that.
One more time after it's in the box.
Once it's in the box, when it's in the format that a customer is going to pull it out and experience it, we've tested it one more time, even though it cleared these, it cleared Andrew, it cleared comparison, it clears me, and it's still played one more time. With the effects loop tested, with the foot switch tested, so everything is, the intention is that it shows up ready to inspire. And to back this up, you know, this is, a lot of love goes into this, right?
Yeah.
Love for something isn't totally valuable until you apply intention. And for a company like us, you have to back up what you say you're going to do.
Sure.
Our amps come with a lifetime warranty. We've got your back.
Wow.
To the original purchaser. We're going PCB, heirloom PCB. The intention is last forever. Who are we if we can't back that intention up with a lifetime warranty?
That's great.
If you join our family, you're going to have something that we are intending to support you and back it up with a lifetime warranty.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's funny. I review a lot of gear, and I still, to this day, am sent brand new gear occasionally that does not turn on. You know, which is kind of shocking, right?
Yeah, it
Because you
can
think,
happen.
particularly when it's coming out, well, not if you tested it, not if
That's
you
right.
test it before it goes
That's
out the
right.
door, it's not
That's
going to
right.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, anyway, I commend you. That's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you. We are trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have processes in place to make sure that outcome happens. In the event that something goes wrong, I've had a customer say, my amp has an issue, and then they start apologizing to me. I'm sorry, you know, and and then I'm like, no. This is not irritating. This is my chance to step up and prove and show you that we got your back.
Yeah.
So that's just one more layer that we've got.
So, okay, so Dylana, this is where you spend a lot of time.
Yes.
Okay, looks like you've got a kitchen sink
Yes.
you're plugged into. What happens here?
Okay. The kitchen sink, when we started this, we talked about American and British.
Yeah.
And this is the amp that bridges all of that together. So if we go for a ride, yes, the chassis is upside down, but I know where all the knobs go. So this big knob lets us dial in the black panel Fender voices, and that would sound like this.
Yeah, very authentic black panel.
Absolutely. Now if I click here, I'm in a very mid-forward, like the 62 brown face.
Wow, really changes the personality.
That's right. So we'll go back.
Can you flip back to the other where you were a second ago?
Back to the brown face?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
I'll play the same thing. One of the things I'm noticing is it's so voiced with intention that the vocabulary of the instrument, there wasn't one click on this that sounded bad.
Yeah.
It was just, where do I want it?
Yeah.
And the vocabulary is there. So we'll go back, bridge for that on the brown face.
Yeah. What gets me, it's like when people are talking about these different voices, it's usually kind of they're EQ'd differently to sound a little bit like it, but this actually really feels like those amps. Like it's more than just an EQ. It's like
it is not an EQ. It is two. The signal paths are completely two separate tube paths.
So it's a different amp.
It is, yeah. Those two amps. You know, before we even thought about how we were going to do this, we had a moment where we were walking around the shop and John talked about the dual citizen amplifier I made. This was back in 2017, I think the dual citizen came out. And that was AC 30, chimey clean, and the American. And the unique thing about the dual citizen is you could blend them. And the whole spirit of the clean channel of the kitchen was to actually make the entire dual citizen right here. And there it is. Yeah. Yeah. You have a shared tone stack, but you have two completely different signal paths until you land at the tone stack. But the creation of the tone has already been fully evolved, and that's what this pan pot lets us do, is choose or blend the British chime or the American clean.
So this is American, this side is British?
Yes, go blackface so we can hear it. Go ahead and pan.
Wow, that's something. Wow. I love that you can get the shades of each and
absolutely.
And when you put it on that American, all that bottom comes in.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great.
And then, like, all of that fun is already had here.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in the studio or you're playing live, you're doing showcases, you got to do a session, you got to do a show at night. Which amps do you bring? You bring a kitchen.
Yeah.
Because you show up with something that does it all. Like I said, it bridges all of those sounds. So if you need crunch, you can jump over here and we'll pull it back into, let's call it like Foreigner Hot Blooded, right? Yeah. But if you want to juice that up, well, we can hit the dial and get shades of that. You know what? Let me take you through that. Let's just hear the plexi channel cleanish. Let's take the tone stack to a JTM. A little more modern, JMP. Now, why would this matter if I'm playing with a keyboard player and he's living in that place where it's kind of in the vocal range? If you hit this, you've created the frequency like you were in a recording studio. The engineer is going to carve out room. This would give the keyboard player room to occupy that middle section, and you would still come right around that with your sound. So here you are. you're in the mid-range, here you scooch out of the way. So let's go ahead and wind up some more gain. And if you really need to blowtorch the place, then you hit that switch and you are... Just with the guitar volume, what do you get now? So that's a kitchen sink.
God, that's great. You know, when you're in a session and you have to change amps, it kills the vibe of everything because it's the whole thing.
Yes.
This way it's like a flick. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, Dylana, that's great.
This is an instrument. It really is. It's an extension of the player with the ability, not only is it an instrument, it's a translator.
Yeah.
Because you can move into all of those voices and go.
Yeah, that is so impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so you bring them through the ringer like that.
Yes.
Try everything.
That's right.
And then what's next?
Well, this. I've had this since I lived in Petaluma, California.
Oh.
And it's a rubber mallet. It's probably a Home Depot purchase since, you know, heck, when I was modding vintage Marshalls and restoring them. This, I actually beat on the amp. My whole goal with this is we want to shake loose a bad solder joint. They're going to happen. We're human beings.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's done by hand.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do is I beat the chassis around the full perimeter, and I want to induce an artifact where I hear a sound or I hear something, and then I can now address that. Almost like simulating the first drive in the truck where it's going to get bounced around.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You want it to show up working.
Yeah.
And so we put it through that condition here. So I'll beat on it if it survives. I also watch the meter here on the Variac. If I beat on it and let's say I have an intermittent power tube, well, it'll show me a current spike.
Oh, really?
And I'll be able to catch everything here. And so that's happening at this stage. And once it's done, I take the caulking gun, and then I'll go ahead and secure any wire paths that I want to be locked in. And I don't want this on there early. That's why they don't do it. If I have to service the amp before it leaves, this goes on at the end.
Yeah, that's commitment.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's commitment. And so that's it. And then I let Gabe know, who works at this station right behind me, that this is ready, and I'll bring it to him, and he'll take it on. So
okay.
That's what happens here. After all of that work is done, meanwhile, Pam has been over here making sure that these look fantastic. And so Pam's covering a 100-watt Dragon now, and over here is something Pam's already finished.
Oh.
Yes.
Love the snakeskin.
Yes, absolutely.
Very David Lindley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have a raw combo. This is the Highline Enclosure. And think of Highline as a delivery mechanism. What you want to deliver is kind of up to you. I have a grill, front baffle for a 212, and that would slide in here. And let's say you're a 310 guy.
Oh, that's great.
Well, you can have a Highline 310. But it doesn't matter what chassis you want to put in here. We make the Lyra, that'll go in here. You want a little more hi-fi clean headroom, Aurora 35 will go here. Anytime we use that chassis, Highline is further extended. So for us to release, let's say we do another amp, well, there's the 112 combo, the head, and 3 Highline configurations available for you. Here's something unique. Here's a 15 and a 10.
Oh, I love that.
And that, imagine if I saw the Black Keys. Pam and I went and saw the Black Keys play, what was it, the Armory? And one thing I noticed, their guitar sound was amazing, and he had a wall of amps.
Yeah.
And I wanted this to feel like a wall of sound. This is only the size of a Princeton as far as footprint goes, but we went and made it taller. And so it's called the Highline, and it is a delivery of your tone. But if you have a 15 and a 10, and you're the only guitar player, and you're going to step on a fuzz or something, like just imagine having your front of house guy mic your 15, mic your 10, pan him at 10 and 2, you are an absolute crushing wall of sound, and it's absolutely glorious. So that's what Highline does.
And I like that you went vertical
Yes.
instead of horizontal,
Right.
because to me that just makes so much more sense.
Well, yes, exactly. And we are getting older, and adjusting the knobs here, I don't have to bend over as far, right? Because I don't want to, right, there's a difference as I'm down here at the single 12 combo. This is here, my keys are here, everything's right here.
Yeah.
I can plug in right here. I'm ready to play.
Set a drink on it. It's
You
right
can
there.
set a drink on it, yes. Yes.
Not until after you buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Dylana, we're at the final stop, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
what's going on here?
Gabriel will take a finished amp. We've approved it. Everything's set. And Gabriel will lovingly put it all together. Reverb takes installed, speakers, chassis mounted.
So tell me about the cabs.
Okay, the cabinets, and I've got a hammer just to keep us all in line.
Yes.
Cabinets are where the final mechanical distribution of sound happens. Sure, we've got a speaker, as Gabe pointed out, but that speaker has to attach to the enclosure. Let's look at it as a drum. What's it made out of? What's the density of the wood? What's the resonance? What are the attachment points? I'm looking into all of that. So we don't arbitrarily screw back panels on. Everything has intention. Even in the case of the smaller ones, some of the amps have the panels. This is a very vintage delivery, and so we'll use these two, and they allow a lot of fullness to occur, but it allows the amplifier to breathe, so the enclosure can breathe. I have the hammer because when we pick the materials that are used, this one doesn't have a reverb tank. I'll go around before we've Tolexed it, and I'll go around and I'm listening to the resonance of the box. And that matters. Again, do we have one of the other? Yes, look at this. Here's a back panel that's very different. Let's grab that.
What am I grabbing?
Yeah. So this is very vintage grab and go 112 combo. Historical vintage, 2 little panels. They are very important to the sound. If you're trying to put that sound out into the world like a Lyra, it needs to occur that way. We'll put those panels on, and it'll acoustically occur in that classic vintage vibe. If we want a more fidelity, bigger presentation, then we have this panel, which gives us our triangle port. It's positioned specifically behind the speaker to allow there to be some compression inside the box and allow the resonance to go. But this enhances the frequency response. If we're trying to make a larger presentation, a bigger than life, then we go with something like this with a tuned panel.
So like on the Lyra, can you mix and match? Can you choose what you want, or do they?
We don't offer it that way, but theoretically, yes, we choose the right panel for the intention of the product.
Yeah.
A Lyra would sound bigger and more modern. You might feel like a Lyra is it might present like a well-controlled 25 or 30 watt amp with this panel on. It will present huge. And we wanted it to present vintage, and so we went with that. But this would show, I think we use this on an Aurora.
A35.
Yeah. So the Aurora 35, well, this is an amp that size, but we do want it to present, well, we want it to hammer the tone out there. And this gives it the ability for the speaker, instead of all the sound leaving both sides, this tunes it and allows me to tune the compression. And when you call that energy, this is like the kick stop that helps everything throw forward into the box. And so, yeah, this very deliberate part of the design. And we don't see that often. We usually see small boxes like this just have the two panels.
Sure.
But this is part of the full presentation of the intention. So we also design the acoustics.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and that is the final step. After that, they're together, and one final play, and away they go.
And away they go.
Well, Dylana, I am just so impressed. It's really amazing seeing this whole journey, because I remember back in the day, and see what it's doing now.
Yeah.
God, it's huge. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you so much. We have one bonus segment.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah. So the fact that we started at the front door and we're at the back door, right? Everything leaves right there.
Right.
But the sound starts somewhere at the interface. What's the interface of an electric guitar?
Pickups.
The pickup.
There we go. Okay, Dylana, we're in pickup land.
Yes.
The bonus. Tell me about
this
it.
is the bonus. If you've stayed through the video this long, here you are, right next to the door. Everything's supposed to be getting out of here, and yet we make one more thing here. When we were talking when you first got here, we touched on, you make pickups and this would be great, and we'll talk about it later.
Because years ago I had like an early MagFrag that in my neck that you put in, and I love my Les Paul, and I loved it.
Yes, excellent. So pickups came about because it was about 2016 or 17. I had a client, this back in Nashville. He had just got a tour. And he had to step up his live rig and didn't know which amp he wanted to buy. And so he came in. I said, come down with your pedal board and your guitar and let's just make it happen. And he did. And this is one of the few times where what came in the door gear-wise sounded really bad.
Really?
Yeah. And what hit me, though, I mean, whoever wants to be on an island? And it was an island moment where I felt like, this isn't going to work. Not even by a long shot. Wow. Now, I ended up salvaging and made it work. But it was a lesson where I said, note to self, because any decision that an artist makes, I make the amplifier. It's supposed to be able to take whatever decision they've made and make it sound good.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I take it. I amplify the other decisions, right?
Sure.
But I am making things that are instruments, and this was a case where it wasn't lining up. It wasn't musical and it wasn't sounding good. And so I thought to myself, okay, we can tweak the knobs on his pedals. We can start to refine. And we did, but later it hit me that if I made a pickup, I could have given him a fighting chance, right? Because this is where the sound starts. This is the beginning of everything. And so I endeavored to create a pickup. And so I went in and I started studying the old patents. I looked at the Seth Lever drawings, and I wanted something in my head that it honored where this started from. Out of absolute respect for a humbucker, this is, that classic thing. And so I studied it. And then I started to notice a pattern. I started reading the forums. What magnet do you like? What magnet do you like? Everybody was shouting about magnets. What wind, this wind, overwind, underwound, why, and for, and what, and all of this stuff. And I thought, okay, we have 6 strings on your typical electric guitar, and each one's different. Each one delivers a different part of the harmonic performance. We have the low strings, the middle two strings. Those kind of frame the melody. And then we have the high strings where we have the bright energy. And they have different impact on wavelength and volume and what comes to the entire performance. And so instead of arguing or trying out one magnet or another, I took the approach, let's take the magnet, the bar magnet that's inside of a humbucker, and it's whichever formula, A2, ceramic, A3, A4, A5, A8, they all have a different sound and a different magnetic strength. And I went and said, okay, well, what if I just cut it into thirds? 3 seems to be our number. Let's take a magnet and cut it into fragments, and then let's deploy the correct magnetic formula for the pair of strings. It's like deciding if I'm miking a choir, I'm using very particular mics for what part of the choir am I capturing. If I'm miking a drum kit, I'm doing it differently depending on the content of the instrument. 57s on an entire kit will work, but it'll be a narrow, that's why we put a D112 in the kick drum.
Yeah.
We want a big delivery. And so I started with Alnico 2 on the bright strings. Alnico 2 is a magnetic field that will collapse immediately and then just kind of sit under it. Well, isn't that what a compressor does? So I put a compressor under the top strings. So the high strings are all about transient anyway. Let's put A2 under the transient out of the high strings. And then the melodies, the body of any melody you're playing or any chord, the real body happens on the G and D string. And those are beautiful sounding strings. Alnico 4s sound like a mastered record. They're just beautiful. I love A4s. So I put A4s on those beautiful blooming middle strings. And then the low strings have this big whomp of energy and a lot of low frequency content. So let's use a magnet that doesn't have a lot of lows but conveys the energy. And so A5s are in the bass strings. So immediate transient response out of your low strings, that full articulation, but they're not over bassy. And what you end up with is the entire instrument that at the magnetic level has been completely tuned. And then I played with the winding and how many turns, what wire. I'm nuts even over what the wire is insulated with. One insulation will have a particular sound. If we're talking about the enamel or the poly, and you can see those, one is kind of purple looking and the other one is a little more what would look like a more brilliant coppery appearance. They actually have a very particular sound. Then there's wire thickness and all of that, and as we've learned here, I'm dialing into every nuance and then constructing a system that taps into the properties of what that contributes. And so we have a line called MagFrag pickups, and we have the Praxis line. It starts at reveal. Reveal is the place where your guitar does the talking. We don't impart a bunch of, so a guitar player, let's zoom back out. Guitar is the instrument talking and then the player expression. For players that want purity of instrument, they'll go with the reveal. If they want a balance of instrument purity and artist expression, you go into the reference, the Praxis reference. If we want to then depart more expression while keeping the purity of the instrument, then we would go into the reference plus. That's where we get more voltage, we get more energy out of it. And then there's this place, some companies often will have, there's either, humbuckers are thought of is it PAF? Is it underwound PAF? Is it overwound PAF?
Sure.
And then is it a distortion pickup?
Yeah.
That's how we've been taught.
Right.
And the artists in us have to try them all and figure out which way we want to go. Sometimes we're surprised that we liked this versus that. I decided to kind of throw all of that out the window, and let's go to, like I described, instrument purity. Then we bring in the next round is instrument purity with artist expression. And then we go even more artist expression. And then there's this place where in between reference and distortion is what I hear the phrase used all the time. I'm an edge of breakup guy. I like edge of breakup. I use my volume knob for this. I get a little bit of hair over here, and I express. And so we make the MagFrag Drive series that is in that edge of breakup. Your clean channel is your fingers, you, and your volume knob. Your dirty channel is you, your fingers, and your volume knob up, and you play into it. So if your gain is happening at the amp, you might hit it with more juice. If your gain is happening at your pedal board, you might go more reference because you're going to elevate and build your gain. You're going to kind of, someone says, I like to stack my drive pedals. We don't want an overly hot pickup. We want to give you full fidelity out of the instrument so that you can stack, and what gets at the amp is absolutely ready to bloom.
Yeah.
And so we have the MagFrag pickup line designed for all of those stages.
So does each pickup in the line have the same magnet configuration?
Many of them do.
Yeah.
We just came out with one. It's not even on our website. Well, it's on a NAM blurb, but we have the ones I just spoke of, and then we have a Dragon interface, and you can only buy the Flux Dragon if you're a Dragon owner.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in some ways, like you have to spend over thousands of dollars to have access to this.
Yeah.
So it's very elite status. Yeah. And with that, I explored different magnets, and we in fact created our own charging temperament. So many times you just charge the magnet and away you go. You choose your magnet, you charge it, you do the assembly and go. But we're taking it down to, we choose the wire, we choose our winds. How do we want to showcase this instrument? So the winds are important. What wire do we use? And then which magnet do we use? And then how do we charge them? I've got one where we temper the charging by 10 to 12%. We get the property of that sonic contribution charged in a way that allows, it's like we don't want the horn section being in front of the flutes.
Sure.
Because the audience, the crowd is just going to hear horns.
Yeah.
We have to stack the room. And so I'm stacking spatially the performance of the instrument through the wire and the charging of the magnet. So the ensemble, what comes out of that 1/4 inch jack, long story short, you've got a fighting chance. What is leaving is absolutely gorgeous out of the instrument. And that's the story with MagFrag.
So what I found, you put that MagFrag in the neck of my Les Paul.
Yeah.
And before that, the challenge has already been, if I had my amp where my bridge sounded right, then my neck was muddy.
Right.
Or I would get the neck sounded right, but then the bridge I'd have to roll down the tone too much.
Yeah.
What I found with that MagFrag is like suddenly my neck would really lost all that mud and would really sing.
Yeah.
It was very present.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was like it mission accomplished.
Right.
It totally
And
cleaned that up.
What was your bridge pickup? Was it a Duncan at the time?
It was
Or was it the stock Gibson?
no.
Okay.
It was I'm trying to, this poor guitar had been through a lot.
Yeah, we're going back 10 years here.
Yeah. At that point, I believe it was a DiMarzio PAF.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's at play there is when we have a pickup in the bridge position or the neck pickup, what we have is we're viewing. It's like we're viewing the moon, so to speak, from different angles. Your guitar has these strings going off the top, everything playing. There's the sound. But where we're perceiving it is here. or here.
Right.
And where we view it is a different resonance.
Yeah.
And at the time, if you dial it in, I got the bridge pickup sounding right, this view was too muddy.
Yeah.
And with the MagFrag, we have the right magnets in each position such that the view is lovely. It's like Pam and I were trying to get tickets to go see a concert soon. And we're trying to go, well, it'll sound good here and it'll look good here, but we'll have to stand here. Like, where are you going to experience this?
Right.
And MagFrags allows you to experience the instrument in its full glory, where everything's just balanced.
Yeah, that's it. To me, it kind of took away the compromise.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And that's what, that's the reality of being a musician. Oftentimes you are
Right.
compromising.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And
Well, I'm glad you're amping this up. That's great. Yeah.
We have spent a year winding pickups, and we just put these out last month.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
so, thank you. Yeah, we've made a ton. We've tried so many things. Bringing it in-house has allowed me to really learn even more. I can test concepts. And you guys met Jake earlier.
Yeah.
Jake is my guy that helps me build all the pickups. So I'll give him a formula. He'll spin them off. I'll tell him, let's charge this magnet at 10% under. And how are we doing this? Well, this little piece of backing, we might put it in between when we charge the magnet. This may give us a couple percent. This may give us 4%. This may allow us to charge at, you know what I mean?
Really?
So we're developing our analog approach to how we're charging the magnets, and sometimes we have to start over and we degauss it or whatnot, and then recharge until we land at the right formula. And so, yeah, we're nuts for this. And
That's cool that you're seasoning
Yes.
to taste like
yes,
that.
that's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Cool.
So the entire performance is intentional.
Yeah.
It's not a me too. It's a purpose. The tone starts with you, your emotion, your neural pathways. You've practiced how to play. You've learned this. And now we need to get that out of you. And that hits your guitar and you play those strings. Well, that has to leave that guitar. So we're making pickups. So it leaves that little 1/4-inch jack, goes out purely and delivers your intention, and then go through your pedal boards, and we'll pick it up on the other end, and we'll bring it into the amplifier and the speakers, and we'll inspire the world and make it a better place. So that's what we do.
Inspiring the world, making it a better place.
Yes.
Well, Dylana, hey, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
This has been a great journey.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
y'all. Third Power. Check them out.
Yes, thank you guys.